Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of PB Plays Cupid, a visual novel. Last time we left off, some just like left turn stuff happened, man. Catherine killed herself, which, wow, okay, apparently she was mentally ill in some way, maybe like schizophrenia, bipolar, I'm not too sure. And Guilleme came to comfort Rosa. Rosa was really angry. Mother was an instigator, and Rosa performed some sort of spell. She apparently knows magic. Magic apparently exists in this universe. Something was wrong with Guilleme, maybe, probably. And we started chapter 3. So let's see where this goes. Rosa entered the room with a tray of pastries and a pot of tea. Her duties were finished and she was allowed a bit of free time. She thought of accompanying Catherine for today's piano lesson. What the fuck? Jesus Christ. Oh my god. So we're going back in time. Okay. So this, oh, I'm so confused. We're just gonna go with it. Let's just go with it. Go with the crazy. Kath, do you want some tea? The girl didn't look her way. She continued to churn out the bitter melancholic sound from her piano. There's no one there though. Rosa sighed. Her shoulders slumped in defeat. She placed the food on the table. She sat on the stool beside the piano, twiddling her thumbs while her friend continued to stew in her foul mood. Is that a new composition? It sounds nice. Nowadays, you make a new piece every day. It's a shame they're all so sad. Catherine didn't reply to that, but when she spoke again, her words were bitter. Hey, you're giving me the cue beforehand. I like it. Usually they always tell me the tonality of a line afterwards, after the fact. I saw them again, those degenerate louts. Oh, sorry. I saw them again, those degenerate louts. No shame at all. Kath. All right, consenting damn adult and all that. At least have the decency to close the door. Sometimes I dare say they want to get caught. When I walked in on them this morning eating each other's faces, they had this look on them. Like they were daring me to say something. Oui? Do they want my applause? Very nice technique, sire. I very much like the way you swap spit with my sister. What? 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 Oh my god. What? I'm woo. I'm so confused. Okay. Great tongue action. Très merveilleux. Merveilleux. I don't know how to say. Très marvelous. And he even had the gall to speak to me? Be a dear and put them on the table, Catherine, he even said, like I'm a soft-headed giggle mug of a maid. He wanted me to get annoyed. I just know it. I am fâchée, I am. Catherine turned to the tea and pastries, stuffing the buttered bread into her mouth. Easy there. These damn things. These damn delicious things, she said the last part angrily, as if she blamed her troubles on the food's relish. Rosa giggled in spite of herself. Catherine wiped her mouth in mock anger. What are you laughing at, wench? It's almost comical to watch you eat when you're angry, Kath. You're like the giant monsters that attack defenseless towns in horror books. Oh, yes? Catherine made sad, tiny squeaks and picked up another piece of bread. No, please spare us. She adjusted her voice and boomed out a roar. The Cathranian monster of the deep doesn't show mercy to anyone! She dropped it in her mouth and chewed savagely. Yum! Annihilation is delicious with tea! The two girls giggled. Catherine's rare smile turned into a rueful laugh, and soon Rosa felt her mood turning somber again. What happened anyway? Aren't you annoyed by it too? Sister has changed ever since she started helping in the chateau. Now it's all Guilleme this and Guilleme that. As if she wasn't already married. Ugh. She doesn't even care that people are talking behind her back. They're calling her a two-timing slut now. I'm tired of running around picking fights with gossipers. She hasn't even visited home for a long time. Father misses her a lot. He always asks about her. Father had worked hard all these years just to give us a comfortable life. Now he is sick and all she cares about is that dastardly marquis. Rosa shrugged. I am a little bit annoyed, but I guess I've gotten used to it. Their lives are their own, Kath. She didn't dare divulge more than that to Catherine, but it was partially true. I like Guilleme. I like Guilleme. I like Guilleme. He's a nice friend, but I love my sister. If they want to stay together, then why not fix this and have at it? But what irritates me... What the fuck? What irritates me to my damn snatch is the way they are with each other. Catherine recently found the use of expletives endearing in her speech. Rosa hoped it was just a phase. They're fucking miserable. Any halfwit can see that. Yes. I told Emelie time and again to smarten up. She's hurting a lot of people, including herself. But as if she would listen to her 16-year-old brat of a sister, Even Guilleme is depressed. I can tell. Remember when he used to come and visit us here to have tea? Or when we used to have picnics in the afternoon? We used to run around chasing rodents in the garden. You ran around. We watched you get dirty, actually. That is very true, you knitheads. Back then, it used to be fun visiting the chateau. Nowadays, we barely even see him. He just stays in his bureau all day brooding. Is it something adults subject themselves to, like a torture ritual? I really don't understand why two people who are clearly unhappy keep at it. Rosa did understand. At least some part of her did. She couldn't exactly explain how pain and love worked. All she knew was that it had something to do with an absurd, obsessive amount of hope. She felt Mother tugging at her mind. She loved Mother so much. Living with the Parades gave her ample comparison to her former life. She had finally accepted that Mother was cruel. And yet, Mother still gave her love and kept her from wanting. Was that crazy? Perhaps it was the only love she needed. Perhaps it was what she deserved. Rosa shook the thoughts off her mind and just shrugged. I know you are just worried about your sister, Kath. But they will figure it out. Humans learn. Look at you, all profound and shit. You read any good books lately? Just the riveting account of the Ugly Duckling and Baa Baa Black Sheep. Ah, the classics. I don't know how you put up with it, though. I hate reading words. In order to write, I have to learn to read first. I want to write. Why would you want to do such a dastardly thing like writing? Why would you want to hit some crazy strings until your fingers bled? The two friends laughed again. I want to remember things. I want to write them down. But most of all, I want to feel the way you do when you play the piano, Kath. Oh? The way you look when you play, you are passion and bliss in musical form. It feels like love, like magic. You inspire me to do something fulfilling and grand. Well, I'm sure you will. Hey, why not write a play one day? Oh? Let's do it. You write an amazing play, and I shall provide the music. We'll travel around the country and perform. We'll make lots and lots of money and gain lots of followers. We'll be known as the Parade Caravan of Wonders. Parade? Are you sure? Puns are the best. Trust me. That sounds darn batty, Kathy. From this day forward, no one is allowed to call me Kathy ever again. A sound of a knock interrupted their giggles. Oh, fuck. What's her voice? I know it was high, and it had a bit of an accent to it, right? Catherine! Catherine, it's me. I need to discuss something important with you. Frustrated, Catherine pouted at the sound of her sister's voice. She turned back to her piano and began to pound a sarcastically happy tune. Rosa stood up to open the door. Hello, Rosa. Madame? She had seen little of the older Parade sister recently, and it astounded her how old she had begun to look. Oh, fucking burn. Her once radiant face looked tired and harrowed, almost crone-like. Under her eyes hung huge bags. And yet, she still looked quite dignified, full of pride and pomp. There was extra rogue on her skin, and her demeanor was elegant. It was as if pride was her only source of nourishment these days. Do you mind giving Catherine and me a moment of privacy? I changed the accent again. GG. Rosa gave a small bow. Of course not, madame. Rosa gathered her nursery books and squeezed Catherine's shoulders before stepping out of the room. Rosa entered the quiet room of the library. She was about to approach the table when she noticed Guilleme, already occupying a seat. He was writing something in the book, somewhat immersed in the activity. Rosa stopped dead in her tracks. Oh. But this is beforehand, right? This is before we're like, bah, Guilleme, fuck you, Guilleme. So this has to be a different sort of reaction. What are you doing? What are you doing just standing there? He's going to see you. Leave now while you still have a chance. All right, mother, maybe you're right. Unfortunately, Guilleme lifted his head and saw her by the door. Oh, hello, Rosa. Rosa took a step back. Maybe it was best to walk away as if it were a mistake. But wouldn't that be rude? He had already seen her, after all. This is her employer, isn't it? But she had never been alone with him. It was just too awkward. What do you mean you've never been alone with him? Fucking Catherine has aged like 9 years. Have you never been alone with him? I call fucking shenanigans. There's no way you've never been alone with Guilleme. Working for him in this large-ass place. Are you kidding me? What the fuck? Well, why not just go in? It was going to be fine. They had conversed normally before. Yet, that was because Catherine had been around to disperse her awkwardness. Now I look like an idiot. Guilleme watched her pace in front of the door in amusement. Rosa decided to go in. She had already embarrassed herself enough anyway. There was little left to lose. Besides, there was nowhere else to go in this big house. She had already gotten lost in the hallways, much to the annoyance of the maitre d'. The library was her favorite place. If she stayed quietly in one corner, Rosa was sure they wouldn't bother each other. She took a seat in the farthest corner of the table and opened her book. Oh no, he's actually standing up and walking over. No, no, you horrible man, just sit over there while I sit over here. But Guilleme was already beside her, peeking at what she was reading. A cold sweat spread on her scalp. Rosa, that book. Rosa began to chatter nervously. I know it's a children's book, sire. I'm teaching myself to read. I know most commoners don't really bother, but I want to learn. So please don't laugh or mock me. Guilleme pointed at the book. It is upside down. Rosa stared at it. The ducks in the picture had their feet up in the air. Rosa squirmed, feeling the heat on her cheeks. She couldn't think of anything more embarrassing. I'm sorry. Guilleme's face lost its cheer. What do you need my forgiveness for? Rosa looked up at Guilleme. His eyes lacked the gentle glint they usually had. It was such a subtle change, something she felt rather than observed. She thought he would reprimand her further. His face certainly looked like it. Instead, he sat down beside Rosa, drumming his fingers on his cheek while he watched her wordlessly. Well? Weren't you going to read? What was wrong with him today? He didn't seem like himself. Had he eaten something bad? The aura he exuded was not his usual friendly warmth, yet it wasn't particularly wicked. The look on his face just read slightly and eternally miffed. Rosa turned the book upright and read the words aloud. Once? Yeah, that is the U with a short sound. It is pronounced like this. Guilleme made the sound, his face still in his lazy stare. Rosa nodded and continued. Her nerves were frazzled, but she was actually at ease in his presence. She felt like a child being taught by their parent. The parent was strict, but still caring. And the child was jumpy, but eager to learn and please. Most of all, he would not hurt her for her mistakes. Rosa was almost sure. There lived. The past tense of live. Why do we change it? It's a rule of grammar that... Grammar? Guilleme narrowed his eyes at her. Do you even know your alphabet? Rosa shook her head. You should start there. Guilleme rose from his chair and disappeared amongst the shelves. He left behind a thick book covered in green felt. That was what he had been writing in earlier. It looked tattered and worn. The pages laid fat on its side so the book didn't close properly. Rosa reached out to peek at the cover when, "You are not to touch that." Rosa's whole body froze at the sign of Guilleme's warning. Guilleme's stare followed her, and even as she whispered numerous apologies under her breath, I'm sorry. Guilleme just rolled his eyes. "You are seeking forgiveness for everything." "Am I? I'm sorry." His hand struck the table in front of Rosa. In the quiet library, the sound sang uncomfortably in her ear. When she looked up, Guilleme's face was looming severely above hers. He moved closer to her, his eyes fixed at her intensely. Rosa's mouth hung open. He moved closer to her. I scrolled. Mouth hung open. She struggled to say something, but her wits were like the burning ends of a matchstick. Before she could compose herself, she felt Guilleme's hand lift her chin. Rosa's heart thumped loudly in her chest. "Please don't. Not you too." She felt his breath on her face, and her heart sank into despair. Mother's voice resounded in her head. "In the end, they are all the same. He is like everyone else. There are no more good people left in this world, child." She shut her eye and prepared herself for the worst, like she always did when. Then she felt her face being turned from side to side. She opened her eye to see Guilleme studying her face like a textbook. "You are a fairly attractive girl. Why do you carry yourself as if it is a slight?" He lifted her hair that hid her damaged eye. Rosa clenched her teeth. "Is it because you were hurt before?" Again, thank you for saying this after the fact. He said it so matter-of-factly, like he was just stating that the sky was blue. Rosa recoiled from his touch. No. I did that to myself." "I wasn't talking about your eye." He placed a book on the table. It was a thin pamphlet filled with letters. There were lines on the book that instructed the user to trace the letters with their quill. Rosa wanted to focus on it, but she could feel the truth in the Marquis's words stinging her. "It was the way you went limp when I touched you. Next time, I advise you fight back. If you don't want to be touched, then you don't have to be. Do you understand this?" "But I am weak." "Says who?" His eyes were humorless. "The world cares not for people who think of themselves as victims, Rosa. If you need power, then be powerful. To have it, it is necessary to crush things along the way." Rosa flinched under the weight of his stare. She realized that the polite and courteous Guilleme was but a facet. It was still him, but nothing but an oil portrait, an artwork of his devising. Synthetic, aloof, and irrelevant, it couldn't capture his essence in a few human strokes. Suddenly, Rosa realized he was powerful. "Who are you?" "Who are you?" She caught herself before saying it aloud. "You're not Guilleme." And yet, he spoke to her as if he knew what it was like to hurt and to fear. "If you don't start acting like your own self, then people will not hesitate to take everything." He laid out the rest of the books he had brought out. One was an activity book for children. It had a picture of a child holding an apple with an arrow stuck in it. Another was a book of limericks. The other two were thicker books that intimidated her. Oh my God, are you serious? She would come to know them as Hamlet and Paradise Lost. If you've never read Paradise Lost, that is rough to read. Let me just tell you right now. It's interesting, but it's rough. So rough. Unless you love that sort of literature, then you're fine. I am not one of those people though. But the one that caught her eye was an ornately designed book. It had a beautiful red jacket with delicate gold trimmings lining the corners. The gods and goddesses of Roman mythology. This would be her favorite book, her treasure, and she knew it like love at first sight. "These books are yours. Take them with you. Read the thin ones first and then gradually build your vocabulary with the thicker ones." Rosa ran her hands over the skin of the red book. She opened the cover gingerly, as if carefully unwrapping a present. Thank you." "No thanks needed. I simply showed you some books from a portion of the library you were unaware of." "You are still so generous, even if you are like this." Like what? That? What? Somewhat irritable? Guilleme didn't reply, leaving an awkward silence lingering between them. Then he gave a giant laugh that made Rosa jump out of her skin. I do look damn irritable, don't I? Why? Is it because of Emelie? Guilleme's eyes drifted away. No. I've always been. You just pointed it out. But you were not usually like this, especially with Catherine and the townspeople. I find it easy to adapt to people, especially the ones I like. Guilleme looked at Rosa as if he had just become aware of her presence. Makes me wonder why I'm so stern with you. I'm sorry. Rosa shook her head. I somehow prefer this side of you. Guilleme cocked his head to the side. He brought out the green book that Rosa noticed earlier. This is called a journal. When you learn to write, start one. What is it? Something you can use to remember yourself when you've forgotten. Does it work? It used to. Nowadays, not anymore. Oh. The act itself is the only thing I remember. Now, let's start with your vowels. A scream pierced through the halls of the chateau. And that's where we're leaving it, right there. Oh, man. Oh, lordy, lordy, lord. If you have any comments about anything that happened today, feel free to let me know down below. I know I keep changing some of these voices, but it's because I can't remember what they were. Hopefully they're similar enough, and I'm trying to age them, but I can't really speak in the man voice. I can't really speak low. I mean, I guess I could speak like this, but that hurts. So I don't. But yeah, if you guys have any recommendations on how to speak with a man voice, feel free to let me know down below. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to be nice to each other. Don't forget to be compassionate. And I will see you guys in the next episode of Cupid, a visual novel. Bye.